So we are finally here. Today is the day. No more talk, no more excuses. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Buffalo Bills later tonight for the right to advance to the AFC Championship game to face the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. But with this game looming, is there more pressure on Lamar Jackson? Now, understandably, you have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. You have a two-time MVP, but after last night's game, has there been more pressure thrust upon to Lamar Jackson? Now, of course, we've already had the narrative of he can't win a playoff game. He's not a passer. We've gone past all of these things, but there is a new narrative popping up after last night's game with the Washington Commanders taking on the Detroit Lions. There has been some talk on Twitter. They say we may have to have a conversation if Lamar Jackson loses this game, because if you didn't watch last night, the Detroit Lions crapped the bed and they lost. And the reason for this loss primarily is Jaden Daniels. The kid was outstanding. He went 22 of 31, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. In his first year, the former Heisman Trophy winner is going to his first NFC Championship game, which is amazing in itself because nobody thought that the Commanders were going to do much of anything this year, having suffered through years of mediocrity and bad quarterback play. And if you're counting, that is 2 playoff games, 567 yards with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I believe he doesn't have any turnovers. So with Daniels being dubbed Lamar Jackson 2.0 and having the success that he's had already in his young career, does that give added pressure to Lamar? And in my opinion, I hope it does not. I hope Lamar plays his game. I hope he's not pressing. I hope he's not trying to prove anything to anybody else, because he is Lamar Jackson. And he is measured by a standard that is different than all other quarterbacks throughout the NFL, because he is a 2-time MVP. He is only the second player in NFL history to have a unanimous MVP. And quite possibly in a couple of weeks, he could have his third. So the talk before was, yeah, he couldn't get it done in the playoffs. He hasn't played his best football during the playoffs. But now you have a rookie on a semi-decent team going to play for the right to make it to the Super Bowl. And if the Washington Commanders somehow win next week versus the Eagles or the Rams and make it to a Super Bowl in his first year, the criticism for Lamar is going to be amazing. But it's amazing to me how none of this criticism has been directed towards Josh Allen. Josh Allen himself is a great quarterback in his own right, done some amazing things in football. I think he has the most playoff touchdowns, or the best playoff touchdown to interception ratio in playoff history. But nobody's talking about, if he loses this game, what is his legacy going to be? He himself has been to an AFC Championship game, but he's not been to a Super Bowl. Some consider him a much better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, but we're not talking about his failures in the playoffs. All we talk about is 13 seconds. We talk about how he went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, but he lost that game. And they came back with 13 seconds left, tied it up, went into overtime, and they lost. They didn't win that game, but they talk about that game like it was such an amazing victory for the Buffalo Bills. The game had such an impact on the NFL that they changed the overtime rules when it comes to the playoffs. But we give him a free pass. We give him free reign to go out here and just perform the way that he's going to perform, because there's no pressure. If he wins this game, amazing. You beat a former 2-time MVP. You beat a team that is presumptuously better than your team. But if they lose, you were supposed to lose. Your team is less talented. You don't have as many Pro Bowlers. You don't have as many All-Pros. So it's a win-win for Josh Allen. And I'm trying to understand how there is no pressure, how there is not a narrative placed on Josh Allen like it is Lamar Jackson, because he is regarded by many as a top 5, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow's up there, but he gets a pass because he made it to a Super Bowl. Doesn't make it to the playoffs all the time, but he's made it to a Super Bowl. So that's going to carry his legacy. So tonight at 6:30 p.m., this is going to be a narrative-changing game for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. If Lamar Jackson wins this game tonight, his playoff record is 4-4. That will drop Josh Allen to 6-6, with most or the majority of his wins coming in the wild card round. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the 1-3 record. We're not going to talk about his struggles to get his team past the divisional round. He's 1-3. He's 0-1 in AFC Championship games. So his record will be 500. Lamar's record will be 500. But there is so much pressure put on Lamar's shoulders, which I know that he can handle. He's handled it through his whole career. This season, with people still questioning him as a top-tier quarterback, he went out and passed for a career high 41 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. But to some, they say that this season will be for naught. They say this season won't mean anything if you do not make it to a Super Bowl. Lamar is history in the making, and they're worried about his playoff success. We've had some of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history over the last 30, 40 years. Not everybody can make it to a Super Bowl. Not everybody can win games and be a part of that Super Bowl lore and be champions. There are only 3 current quarterbacks in the NFL that have won a Super Bowl. So what you're not going to do is you're not going to minimize what Lamar Jackson has done throughout this season. And I understand it. Quarterbacks are measured by championships won. Quarterbacks are measured by taking their team to the pinnacle and winning games, being champions, considered the best of that year. And I know Lamar Jackson doesn't look at other quarterbacks. He doesn't compare himself to anybody else. And why should he? He is one of one. There will never be another quarterback like Lamar Jackson in NFL history. There may be quarterbacks that are able to pass better than he can. There are going to be some quarterbacks that may be able to run better than he can. But you will never have the combination of 2 put together where you have one gentleman that is a 4,000-yard passer and a 1,200-yard runner in the same body. So tonight is that legacy-defining game. Tonight is that game where Lamar Jackson puts all the doubters to rest. Because once he becomes 4-4 in the playoffs, what can you guys say? If he goes into Kansas City next week and loses, if he wins this game, he's supposed to lose. It's the Patrick Mahomes era. They are the best team in the NFL. They are going for their 3rd straight NFL title. So even if he were to lose, he's supposed to lose. If he wins and finally breaks through, what will you say then? Lamar Jackson will be on his way to a Super Bowl. But the pressure right now, I don't want to be him. Like, I would not want to be him right now. Watching that young man ball out last night and take down the number 1 seed, have to give Jaden credit. And this is why I'm not even joking. I'm not even calling them the Commies or the Commodores, because they did their thing. As much as I don't like them, there is still that respect factor that he did what he needed to do. So tonight, Lamar Jackson, please, 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 please do what you need to do. Do what you've always done. Just go out there and be you. Run it when you have to. Throw it when you have to. Let Derrick Henry do his thing and just be the Lamar Jackson that we know you can be. I implore you. I'm begging you. Because I don't want to hear anything from these Buffalo Bills fans. Nothing. I don't want to hear them run their mouths about how they beat us and took down the mighty Lamar Jackson, how Josh Allen, of course, is the MVP because he did these things and he took out the best quarterback in 2024. But if they lose, it's going to be, well, we had the worst team, even though they've been speaking about, oh, how many pieces they were missing from the week 4 matchup, which makes them a so much better team. And of course, they have the better roster when it comes to winning the game. They don't have the better roster when it comes to the MVP conversation, but they have the better roster when it comes to game planning and why they should win. So let me know in the comments if you believe Lamar Jackson has more pressure added to him because of what happened last night. Let me know if you think that this season has been a failure for the Ravens and Lamar if they don't make it to a conference championship. They don't make it back to where they made it last season. Is this season a complete failure? Or is it a success because we saw Lamar Jackson take it to a whole nother level and up his game, which means he could possibly do it again next season. But an NFL career is finite. There are only a certain number of years that you can play this game. Father Time is undefeated, and certain players only have a peak for so long. And I get it. I understand. The Commanders roster is littered with holes. They have some good players here and there, but they are littered with holes and did what many people thought they couldn't do. The Baltimore Ravens throughout their last 7 years have had some of the best NFL rosters. Haven't done half of this. So I can see where the conversation starts, but hopefully tonight at 6:30 will be the beginning of the end of these conversations.
Nah, man, I'm cool.